She won the Oscar, then spent the next decade explaining that she actually won it. An unknown actress, a comedy the Academy didn't take seriously, a presenter the room didn't trust, My Cousin Vinny, 1992. The courtroom comedy that fooled everyone, including the people who made it. 16 facts. One of them involves a man showing up to work the morning after winning an Oscar and clutching the trophy in his arms. Fact 1. The whole film started with one number, 13. In the early 1970s, Launer met a law student who mentioned that someone had taken the bar exam 13 times before finally passing. That number never left him. What kind of lawyer does that make you? And what happens when that lawyer walks into the scariest case of his career on his very first day? It took Launer almost 2 decades to answer those questions. Fact 2. The studio wanted Mona Lisa cut from the script entirely, not reduced, gone. The studio president told Launer the girlfriend had too many good lines, give them to Vinny instead. Having the woman solve the case made the lead look weak. Launer later recalled, "I thought she was the best thing in the movie." He didn't cut her, he added more of her. The biological clock scene was written specifically to keep the studio appeased enough to let Mona Lisa stay. The character the studio tried to kill won the only Oscar the film received. Fact 3. Vinny was originally written as dyslexic. The answer to the question every viewer asks was always in the script. Everyone who watches asks the same question. How does a man this sharp fail the bar 6 times? Launer had written the answer in. Mona Lisa offers to read the files. He refuses. Director Jonathan Lynn cut it, said he didn't know how to portray dyslexia on screen. Launer was furious. Critics found the gap. The explanation was in a drawer. Fact 4. The studio's first choice for Vinny was Andrew Dice Clay. That didn't work out. The list that followed: Danny DeVito, Peter Falk, Robert De Niro, Jim Belushi. Studio executives worried De Niro couldn't carry a comedy. This was before Meet the Parents. Pesci based Vinny on men from his New Jersey neighborhood. Loud, fast-talking, rough but real. The character 5 actors turned down became one of the most quoted performances of the decade. Fact 5. The 2 yachts scene wasn't written. It happened in real life first. Jonathan Lynn is British. Pesci's New York accent was sometimes hard for him to follow. During rehearsals, youths came out as Utes, and Lynn genuinely didn't understand it. Lynn put the confusion directly in the film. That misunderstanding between Vinny and the judge was lifted from a real conversation between the director and his star. The most quoted scene in the film was an accident. Fact 6. The studio also tried to block Marisa Tomei from being cast. Pesci ended it. Lynn had seen Tomei on another set and was certain. The studio pushed their own preferred actress. They argued for 30 minutes. Lynn showed the screen tests to Pesci without revealing his preference. Pesci immediately chose Tomei. Studio backed down. Lynn later called it the best decision he made on the film. The line that confirmed it: Tomei's first scene. "Oh yeah, you blend." 1 take. Roll locked. Fact 7. Tomei grew up in Flatbush, Brooklyn. The accent wasn't a performance. The Brooklyn sharpness, the way Mona Lisa talks like she's already 3 sentences ahead, Tomei wasn't learning that. "I really knew the neighborhood," she told the New York Times. Fact 8. Joe Pesci showed up to set the morning after winning the Oscar for Goodfellas. He still had the trophy. Vinny, held in contempt, sleeps soundly while a prison riot breaks out around him. On the first take, Pesci was lying there clutching the Oscar in his arms. Director Lynn sent that take to the studio as the official dailies. The man playing a lawyer who couldn't win a case had just won the most competitive acting award in the world. A studio that tried to kill the same character twice. An actress playing herself. An actor holding last night's Oscar. Up to here, the film almost didn't exist. From here, it outlasted everything. Fact 9. The prison scenes were filmed in a real prison. The men in the background were serving real sentences. The production shot at Lee Arrendale State Prison in Georgia, a working correctional facility. The prisoners in the background were actual inmates, not extras. The camera walked into a real place and pointed. There was no set design. There was no set. Fact 10. The film is taught in American law schools. A federal appeals judge quoted it in an official court opinion. In 2019, Merrick Garland cited the Grits cross-examination in an official court ruling, calling it a masterclass in cross-examination and quoting the dialogue in a footnote. Scalia referenced the film in a 2006 Supreme Court hearing. law professors use the courtroom scenes to teach what most curricula skip: how to read a witness, when to stay quiet. A comedy about a lawyer who couldn't tie his tie straight became required viewing for people who argue cases before the Supreme Court. Fact 11. The pause-attraction argument that wins the case is technically wrong. The screenwriter knew it for 25 years and didn't say anything. Mona Lisa's testimony that only two 1964 cars had independent rear suspension, proving the tire tracks could only be the defendant's, has a factual error. Lawner later admitted it. He let it go for a quarter of a century. The case had already been won. Fact 12. The film is set in Alabama. It was shot entirely in Georgia. The signs gave it away. Monticello, Georgia played the town square. Covington provided the courtroom set, the same one used for In the Heat of the Night. Lee Arundel State Prison stood in for an Alabama jail. Signs were swapped, license plates added. In some wider shots, the crew couldn't change every sign. Georgia highway markers appear in the background of a film set entirely in Alabama. Nobody noticed for years. Fact 13. Fred Gwynne played the judge. It was his last film. Gwynne had spent years trying to escape Herman Munster. My Cousin Vinny gave him a man of absolute authority inside a situation of absolute absurdity. And he played every moment with complete dignity. Gwynne was already ill when he made the film. He died of pancreatic cancer in 1993, the year after it was released. He was 66. Judge Haller, confused, implacable, absolutely correct, was the last role he ever played. He went out on the highest note. Fact 14. Marisa Tomei won the Oscar, then spent years being told she hadn't. When Palance announced Tomei's name, she was the least established nominee in the category. Vanessa Redgrave was the favorite. Within days, rumors spread that Palance had misread the envelope. The real winner was Redgrave, and the Academy was too embarrassed to correct it. The Academy denied it. The accountants confirmed their process would have caught any error on stage. The rumor was debunked completely and stuck anyway. Tomei later joked about it hosting Saturday Night Live. She admitted it was crushing at first. The night she should have been celebrating became something she spent years defending. In 2001, she was nominated for a second Oscar. The Academy hadn't made a mistake the first time. Fact 15. A sequel was written. Tomei said no. The studio wrote Mona Lisa out of it. The project died. Lawner developed a follow-up. Vinny practicing law in England. The same fish-out-of-water logic in a completely different culture. The script was ready. Then Tomei passed on returning. The studio hired another writer to remove Mona Lisa. Same move as before filming. The rewritten version was shelved. The woman they tried to cut from the original became so essential that her absence ended the franchise. The studio helped draw that circle. Fact 16. Marisa Tomei heard about her Oscar nomination at 5 in the morning. She thought her pregnant friend was in labor. She was sleeping on a friend's couch when the calls started coming in. Her friend, heavily pregnant, was screaming. Tomei woke up thinking the baby was coming. It was the nomination. From a couch to the Oscar stage. The Academy spent a decade being told they'd made a mistake. They hadn't. She was nominated again in 2001. Some performances don't need defending. They just need time. A number overheard at a party. A character the studio tried to delete twice. A man who arrived to set still holding last night's Oscar. It was never supposed to be studied in law schools or quoted in federal court opinions. It was supposed to be a comedy about grits and tire tracks. Turns out Mona Lisa knew what she was talking about.